This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Welcome to BRD. By the way, a lot of people have asked, why am I always smiling like a cat who ate a canary? And it's because I get to see Gary and I hear awesome Dawson's voice, and we get to do the best 15 minutes in the universe. So,
absolutely.
Gary, here we go.
Makes me smile as well.
What topic would you like to start with today, Gary? Because it's as I often call it, an embarrassment of riches.
I could not agree more. I think what I'd like to start with is I'd like to harken back to an episode of the Full Reasonable Doubt show from August, and there was some stuff going on with the governor of New York, and you said, I know someone, and I'd like to have him on the show. You want to set it up beyond that? Yeah,
let me tell you. So when all heck was breaking loose with Andrew Cuomo, who was the then governor, there was a report that was released by Tish James, my buddy, the attorney general there in New York, and Tish apparently took the governor by surprise, if you believe the reporting, because he couldn't believe, he was quoted as saying internally, I can't believe Tish did me like this, or something to that effect. So I said, Gary, in one of our, I don't know that people understand how much you and I text during the day. But
my wife is jealous. Last night, you and I were texting at about 10:30 at night. I was texting you pictures of my kid. And she's like, who the hell are you texting at this hour?
That one picture of you holding the prince is something. You should show that before we end. So I said, what about bringing on Karen Agnifilo, who's been with the firm in New York and was the former number 2 in the Manhattan DA's office. I can't think of any, and I think she's been in the sex crimes unit. She's been in this unit, that unit. I thought nobody better. So we asked her about the report, which did not deal with any potential criminal liability by Andrew Cuomo. It was pretty much...
It was a civil investigation.
Yeah, exactly. A civil investigation, and rightfully so, I think, under the New York law and what the attorney general is deemed to be able to investigate. So I said today to Gary, with the news, that the breaking news we're going to talk about, let's go back and harken back to what Karen said.
Yeah, we're fond of predictions here at Reasonable Doubt. So let's look, 2.5 months ago.
Part of we'll call our segment Crystal Brain.
Yeah. 2.5 months ago. Let's see what we thought.
So the report stayed away from determining whether or not anything was actually criminal. And really what they did was they talked about it from more of a civil perspective. And the civil perspective is what we commonly call sexual harassment. In New York, it's under the New York human rights law. And federally, it's Title VII. And it's a sort of a civil standard. It's different than a criminal standard, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is kind of what the standard of proof is in a criminal case. It's civil. It's the preponderance of the evidence, and so the report was very much a civil report, kind of spelling out what they found and what they saw. But when you read the facts, if you're somebody who has experience reading the facts and making determinations about whether the facts make out a crime, that's where you start to have people opine whether or not some of this is criminal or could rise to the level of criminal. And there's a few factors that you have to think about. And I read the details and read the facts here. I would say in 8 of the 11 instances, or I should say complainants or victims, in 8 of their cases, there's arguably criminal conduct, and they are all misdemeanors. I don't see anything that rises to the level of a felony, and a felony is a higher crime than a misdemeanor.
Who could have seen that coming?
Who could have seen that coming? And guess what? Read what was announced today.
Yeah, today it was announced that Governor Andrew Cuomo has been charged with forcible, I believe it's forcible touching. Do I have that right? Forcible touching, and that is a misdemeanor. So exactly like Karen anticipated back in early August, here we are today in late October.
Yeah, and it's you never want to see literally anybody charged with a crime. But, when you saw what was happening with that report, when you saw kind of their reaction to it, and then Karen gave the analysis, it was not unexpected, I guess is what I would say.
No, I don't think so. And yes, no one wants to see anyone charged, but that's how it goes. Before we move on to our next story, I want to congratulate you on the opening of GiGi's, which is, I assume, where you are. There's a lot of ambient noise. I'm sure there's people in their cars frustrated. What the hell is going on?
You cannot believe the amount of activity here, but I'm doing this from GiGi's, which is the latest hospitality venture that we've opened, and tonight is as we tape this is the opening night, and
that's out at the V. That's out at the V Palm Springs.
V Palm Springs, exactly.
A delightful establishment. I've visited once myself. It's great.
Well, I'm waiting for you to come back down. In fact,
I'm coming back out.
I'm going to try and lure you down this weekend.
I'll bring the young prince. He'll love it.
And boy, he's a handsome young man. Can't you put that picture up on the screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll throw it up there. Just give me a second here.
Let me see this. I want anybody to know, whatever Gary does, all he has to do is send this picture. And how can you ever do anything but smile ear to ear when you see this picture?
Oh, it's popping up here. There you go.
Okay, if that isn't the definition of bliss by Gary, and his son he's kind of bemused, isn't he?
Yeah, he's there's not a lot that gets him fired up. This is a picture from his first open house, and there was a lot of parents and a lot of kids, so he was a little overwhelmed. But yeah,
were you two protesting critical race theory at that open house?
I commute 45 miles, so I don't have to worry about crap like that, at least not yet. So no, we were just showing each other paintings and stuff. But you are right, that is the happiest that I get. You will never see me smile bigger than that picture.
I understand it. How old is he now?
He'll be 2.5 soon. Right.
Well, Jake is 27 and a half, going on 2.5, and I never lose my.
And you know what? I see that smile on your face, the one from my picture, every time I see you with Jake.
And by the way, Jake shares with your son that same bemused, like, Dad, what are you doing to me? Look.
Yeah, exactly.
So the second one story that I wanted to talk about, which I thought was interesting, we've been talking about Alec Baldwin, and the sheriff yesterday did a press conference along with the newly elected, I think this year or late last year, district attorney, who, to her credit, has made some tough decisions. I mean, there was one case in particular I was reading about, which she decided not to ask for jail time, but just ask for probation. It was not the politically expedient thing to do. Yet she came out yesterday with the sheriff, did a press conference, and they said, nobody's been removed or taken off the table. And I think you and I have talked about this. I've said in a high-profile case like this, where there are so many facts that are what I would call bad facts, the idea that somebody doesn't get charged, it would be shocking to me. I mean, I think this case screams in all of my experience, for a prosecutor to file involuntary manslaughter. I'm not saying they should or that I want to see it or anything else. I'm just making a prediction. And now that what has happened is we've now, if you believe what the cops are saying, there was apparently 500 to 600 rounds of live ammunition.
Yep.
The assistant director did not check the gun, if you believe what was said. And the surprising thing is, I have not criticized anything Alec Baldwin has done so far post-shooting. Obviously, you can critique or be on either side of the issue over the shooting, but he has appeared distraught. He's said the right things. He's cooperated. He's done everything that, if you were a crisis manager, maybe not a criminal defense lawyer, you would say that's the right thing. But today he came out and tweeted, or yesterday he came out and tweeted something that I don't know if you've got it, Gary, but
To my knowledge, he didn't tweet so much as he retweeted a few articles that were saying that where the headline was, the clickbaity title was about how the assistant director handed him the gun and shouted "cold gun." So he's seeming to kind of propel this narrative that is being made by certain press outlets, that he is not in the wrong.
This is the problem, and I'll repeat it, and I've said it to you before. The problem with that is he's the producer.
Right.
And the producer, ultimately, they're going to, trust me, there is right now an insurance company representative that is over there trying to turn over every rock to find every potential way to push back on them having to pay their $5 million. And one of the things they may do is try to investigate whether Alec Baldwin, as the producer, was cutting corners, whether or not there were safety concerns, whether or not how he reacted to that. The other problem I keep mentioning is the assistant director, who he's now retweeting about, was presumably hired by the victim, the surviving victim,
right,
who is the director in this case. That is and so when the district attorney, this newly elected district attorney, starts talking about how complex it is and how high profile it is, I hate to be cynical, but I think that's one of their problems. What is the look if you're going to lay out an assistant director who was presumably hired by a director who had an infinite number of choices, picks this assistant director, and now they're going to just make that the guy that takes the fall?
Well, two things. One, I'm glad that you've had a chance to address this on this show, because I've seen a few clickbaity titles about you today that I read and was like, I don't know if he said it that way. And then sure enough, you click into the article and it's like, no, the headline's misleading. And I get it. That's the world of news and business these days, unfortunate as it is.
And expound on that.
Yeah. Well, look, it's true with everybody. I mean, here, let me see if I can find the exact tweet that was sent my way with you tagged, but it was something from Fox News, and it had you saying that you wanted a charge against Alec Baldwin or something like that. At least that's what it was implying. And I read it and looked at that and I was like, and I clicked in it and I read in, and sure enough, that's not what you said, but that's the way the news is. It sucks, but that's the way the news is these days, is that the clicks equal sense and they need to make as many sense as they can. But the other thing I wanted to say is I'm not sure if you're even aware of the strange connection between our show and that gentleman who shouted "cold gun" and gave it to Alec Baldwin. Did you know he was an assistant director on Road Hard a few years back?
No kidding.
Yeah. So, I mean, we didn't learn anything about him during that time that would suggest, oh yeah, he's out to hurt somebody. It's certainly not. Like, he was a good guy and he did a fine job on the movie. But yeah, it's a weird connection that we have.
I think what people have to understand, anytime there's a case that's this high profile, that involves Hollywood, that involves somebody who is immersed in right now the political kind of debate of the country for the last 5 years, because obviously Alec Baldwin is being savaged by the MAGA world because he is done the Saturday Night Live
Donald Trump
impersonations of Trump, and people love to kind of jump on the bandwagon, so to speak. But remember, if you're doing a sober analysis is, as an actor, if he was just solely an actor on this set, you would be hard pressed to, if you're a prosecutor, and that's, keep in mind, I'm talking about right now, so when I read the comments, I don't want to just take a baseball bat to somebody. What I'm saying is, if you're a prosecutor, we are pre-charging. I am making the prediction that somebody will get charged. That's
I agree.
I agree. It's a prosecutorial default position. And when they say nobody is off the table or nothing is off the table, that's probably the right thing to say, but that also sends a message. And the message is, we're not exculpating Alec Baldwin right now. And why is that? If he was just an actor, I don't think they would say that. But the fact that he's a producer takes him into another sphere.
Well, I couldn't agree more because, if he's just an actor and the guy who he works for is shouts cold gun and everyone agrees that happened, at that point, I don't think you're on the hook. But when you're looking back at how many dollars are being spent and cut on budgets for safety and budgets for, whoever, and how did this 24-year-old, was there nepotism involved, all this stuff. And then it starts coming out that Nick Cage was pissed 6 weeks ago because of something similar that happened with the same person. It's just, there's too much information that is negative to have this go away without someone being charged, in my opinion.
But remember, prosecutors who are elected are always thinking in terms of how is this going to play.
Right.
And I think that's probably where we'll end it.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are both situations we'll be monitoring, but absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Mark. Congratulations on the opening of GiGi's. As I was trying to extort you for a free trip last night, you sent me some of the pictures of the restaurant and it looks magnificent. My wife and I were drooling over them. So congratulations on the launch. Have a great time tonight, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we record the best hour in the universe.
I love it. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.